don't let it derail you and think like, "Oh my gosh, why am I even doing this?" Like, I could have sat there and been like, "Oh my gosh, why am I doing this? I'm spending my time putting," but I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna give myself 5 minutes to feel like a little sad sack of potatoes about it, and then I'm gonna move on. I'm like, "Great. Now what's your game plan?"
Hey everyone, welcome to the S.O.B Marketing Podcast, where we celebrate the S.O.B that you are, and if you haven't figured it out yet, we mean small-owned business. We don't mean S.O.B.
Listen, we know that as a small business owner, you are working hard on the daily to keep your business fully operational while trying to promote it. And while some days it may feel like the business is owning you, if we're being honest with each other, I bet you would admit that you wouldn't give up the insanity for anything.
Our commitment here at the S.O.B Marketing Podcast is to give you the real talk, what works when it comes to advertising, marketing, promoting your business, and then what doesn't really work.
And Chelsea and I promise to always keep the conversation real.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the S.O.B Marketing Podcast. S.O.B as in small-owned business. I promise we're not calling you guys names. Before we get started, we just want to say thank you for listening. If you have any topics that you want us to talk about, send us an email at help@theseasonmarketer.com. If you're watching on YouTube, you can leave a comment. You can send us a DM or leave a comment on our social medias. It is The Season Marketer across the board. If you want to support what we're doing here on this podcast, please consider leaving us a review. It helps us get in front of other small business owners, and our entire goal is to help small business owners feel comfortable and confident in their marketing, handling it on their own. Vivian, what are we talking about today?
All right, this topic is very near and dear to my heart because I'm still in the midst of it. So y'all are in good company, but it is for anybody who is currently working a full-time job or a job and they want to start something on their own outside of that job. So a side hustle or a small business on top of it. And so we just want to be here today to provide you some valuable information on how to kind of navigate through that because it can be overwhelming at times. And I think a lot of times just the idea of it prevents people from actually getting started on something that they're very passionate about and something they want to do. And I can tell you, having done it now for 7 years plus, it's doable, you guys. And, you know, you're building your dream.
Yeah.
So I think it's, you know, what is more worthy of putting your time and effort to than that?
Yes. And as Vivian said, she is still in this process of navigating her full-time 9-to-5 on top of the season marketer. So luckily she brought me on, so I try to alleviate the pressure off of her. But I want to start this conversation by saying, y'all, please be reasonable. Be reasonable about what you can do. You are one person, so let's be realistic about your goals for your business. Because if you are not realistic about your business goals, you're going to feel awful when you don't reach them. And we don't want you guys to feel awful. Running a small business is hard enough, period, point blank. Trying to run a business on top of already having a full-time job is intense. So very important to track your wins because it's going to help you. It's going to motivate you. It's going to give you perspective, but be reasonable about what your goals are.
Yeah. And I think what comes along with that, Chelsea, is organization. So what's kind of interesting is I know for me, because I am working a very structured, and for me, it's not 9 to 5, it's 8 to 5. Okay. And then some on the weekends and some like, it just depends, right? Because it's a full-blown career. Okay. So there are responsibilities that sometimes occur after those hours and all of that. So schedule from week to week can sometimes vary, but for the most part, when I was starting the season marketer, what helped me was I was very structured, and know that you can loosen up. Like, I'm not as structured now as I was then, but it helped me to get things off the ground and to stay consistent. And what I did was I knew what time I had to be at work.
Mhm.
And I knew that anytime before that and anytime after that, and maybe even during my lunch break, I could do what I wanted to do. And that's when I focused on building the season marketer. It was before, after, or in that hour lunch. Now, what is interesting there is I was never particularly a morning person. It forced me to start waking up at 5:30 and getting stuff done early in the morning.
Yeah.
And I think even still now, Chelsea, like, you know that sometimes I'll be awake early to kind of try because you'll get like emails from
Yeah.
me before that 8 o'clock time frame. So it does help to organize or get in a pattern
Mhm.
of doing stuff. And that would be my one recommendation that I think goes hand in hand with what you just brought up.
Yeah. And we've discussed this before, but consistency is your friend, because not only will consistency be good for your audience, they enjoy seeing you consistently, but being consistent is going to help you become more efficient in whatever you are doing. And being consistent is kind of going to force you to stick to that schedule, right?
Yeah, it holds you liable, that's for sure, or accountable, not liable, holds you accountable. Because the thing is, to give you an idea, for the season marketer, we're doing, free resources in terms of like YouTube videos and also shooting a podcast. And so, what my structure may look like is I have the weekends to film and edit those videos,
Yeah.
okay? Because those are 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, that I have that are full days that I can do whatever I want. Now, in there, because I also try to be a family gal, I don't wanna, I wanna hang out with my sister, my mom and dad, my husband, do all that stuff, and I also need downtime to rest. So, I have to be very, I have to think ahead as far as like, okay, I need to have my script done ideally by Friday. So that way, Saturday, I can shoot. And that way, I'm not having to sit there and try to write and do all this. Our weekly emails that we send out, right? That's something that we have to like, think about and get out. So the structure helps very much, especially when to alleviate feeling the overwhelm.
Yeah.
Because if it's too chaotic, you're bound to miss some deadlines
Yeah.
that you're putting on yourself, okay? No one else is putting these deadlines on you, you are.
Yeah, exactly. And I do also want to say, small business owners, I know you're already so busy and you're working your full time job as well. And why would I sit down and create a marketing plan that's going to take so long? And is it even worth my time? It is, because it's going to help you get organized so you can be very clear and focused on what you need to get done, however long your marketing plan is. We've had this discussion. You don't have to have a year-long marketing plan. You can do a quarter, you can do 6 months, whatever works best for you. But having that marketing plan is going to help you be more efficient with all of the things that you need to get done with your small business. And we have an entire episode about marketing plans. So if you haven't listened to that, go listen to it.
Yeah, and what it does up front is, for one, it forces you to think about what resources you have available right now, what budget, if any, that you have available right now, and then also how you want to tackle building something from the ground up. All right. So, and for some people, depending on where they're at and what they're doing, it may be easier than others. But I can tell you that it helps because you are starting something from scratch on your own. You want to be sure that you have these quarterly focus so
Yeah.
that way you can determine, like Chelsea said, if you reached your goals, right? Because then that kind of gamifies it for you and it makes it fun. You're like, great, I see improvement. I
Yeah.
see, that I'm reaching my goals on X, Y, and Z. Some of these goals may look different. If you're first starting out, your goal may simply be to like, let me hammer out what my actual business is going to look like, what my revenue sources in my business is going to look like. Let's say, for example, you're a knitter,
Okay.
okay, and you want to start selling whatever you're knitting. I
Okay.
don't know, okay? But one of these things that you would think through is, all right, do I want to sell on Etsy?
Okay.
Do I want to sell on my own website using Shopify? Do I want to exclusively use markets to sell my products? Like, these are all very different marketing initiatives that would require different things from you. So once you identify, and let's say first you're like, hey, I'm going to start on Etsy because it is the easiest place. I just have to, take photos of my products and then I can upload them and write the descriptions and then I can start selling. Then maybe the next thing I want to do is I want to create my own website, but I know that's going to take me a little more time. All right. And I may have to hire somebody out for that. So how much is that going to cost me? So you see what I'm saying? There are these things that I think it will help to give you, like you said, small wins that you can celebrate as you go along and then move your business forward into that growth stage.
Yeah. And is this how your business is going to pan out?
Maybe.
Probably not. Probably not. But right now I'm thinking about the conversation we had with Michelle from Vision Bomb, how okay, she tried to do a plan, it just didn't work. Like she was just all over the place. It ended up working out for her. That's great. I don't suggest doing that. I suggest trying to create a plan just because it's going to keep you continuously moving forward, right?
And I do think hers was a little different because I think it wasn't so much that she was scattered in the way she was approaching things. I think for her, what it was, and y'all, these are real hard conversations that you have to ask yourself. If you're wondering why Vivian Walton is still working a full-time job 7 years into this, if you're thinking, well, why hasn't she launched? There's a lot of stuff that's like going on with it, and you have to do what is best for you, your family, and your business. And for me, the most logical thing for me was like, hey, if I'm not going to be able to go full blown into doing this year 4 into it, but I can hire my sister to help alleviate a lot of what I'm doing. In that way, she's dedicated to certain things, initiatives that are going to help the business grow. Then I'm still on my track, right?
Yeah.
It just looks different. So you're constantly having to reassess. For Michelle, I remember she had talked about how, okay, she was doing it and then she was a photographer. And then she's like, I think I need to go back to working my engineering job in maybe a different like capacity, but still doing that. You have to, small business ownership is not linear, y'all.
Yeah.
Right. And so the good thing is that you have options.
Yeah.
Okay. You have options to be doing that. And so for us, I think for me personally, the nice thing is that like this is a source of creativity, an outlet for that. And also it's us building the business up and being able to become that marketing hub for people. And that's what I enjoy spending my time doing that.
Yeah.
Eventually that'll be the full-time thing. It's just not right now. And that's fine because I understand it's going to be, something that grows over time. But for you guys if you're thinking, I just want to say this to you, if you have an idea or you want to do something and you just haven't done it because you're too scared, this is wonderful. You don't have to quit a job to start a business. Keep your job, work and grow your small business while you can, when you have the time to do it. And then that way the leap isn't as scary.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Is it going to be hard? Like, I'm not going to lie to you. It's not going to be easy. But if you reassess like Michelle did, she took a step back and she said, you know what? I need to go back, get at least a part-time job. She did what was best for her. If you try to stay organized, you create a plan, try to get some consistency, it can be done.
And I think the burnout part of it is a really big deal. So what ends up happening sometimes is maybe you have an idea and you work at it for like 3, 4 months, 6 months, and you're not seeing traction. And then you're like, gosh, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? I think, Chelsea had mentioned earlier about being realistic about goals, you're not going to build a business in 6 months, y'all. Like, or listen, if you have a really great idea, there are some of these tech companies that do that, but a lot of times they have investors, they have capital. And so that's the thing, is just remember that depending on what resources you have available to you, you may not be able to scale that quickly. You may not be able to go from 0 to 100 in 6 months.
Yeah.
That's okay. All right. It takes people a while to get there at times. One of my favorite people to follow on Instagram is Sarah Blakely. For those of you that do not know who Sarah Blakely is, she is the inventor of Spanx.
Ah,
Okay.
okay.
And she posted something today that kind of caught my attention. And it said, "It's only delusional until it works." And then the second picture she uploaded was the first prototype of what Spanx look like.
Yeah.
Okay. And this thing, it does not look anywhere like the Spanx of today. This was her first like couple of prototypes. And
Yeah.
when she started, and she said that at the bottom, because they're footless, they're not supposed to be pantyhose. At the bottom, they're open ended. And so she would iron the bottom of it, because when she would get them in, they would just kind of look all whatever, wrinkly. But then Oprah caught a hold of one of these and she loved it, had her on there, and then her sales skyrocketed. Okay. But so my thing is this, like, it's, if you have an idea and you truly feel like passionate about it, I think it's worth it for you guys to give it time to work.
Yeah.
All right. Don't go into it thinking that, like, hey, in my first year, I'm going to make $250,000 and I'm going to be able to quit my job. That happens sometimes for a very select few people. And sometimes you don't know how much capital they have behind them or what their family life is like. Maybe they're married to a very successful husband that, like, basically they don't need a job or something. Y'all don't know anything outside of that. So just don't be comparing yourself to, like, you know, those type of businesses. But I do think the burnout is real, and it can really hinder people. So Chelsea, what tips do we want to give them about, like, burnout?
Burnout. Okay. I want to start this conversation by saying I am so sick of hustler mentality. Okay. I am so sick of you always need to be on, you always need to be selling, you always need to be working. That is not healthy. Okay. That is not something that your body can handle. I recently saw a reel and I had an entire conversation with Vivian about it because it had really annoyed me. I don't remember who the guy was. Okay. Just saying that. I don't remember who the guy was, but he was in the reel talking about how a business owner kept on pestering this guy saying, hey, will you do an interview with me for my podcast or whatever? And main guy, I'm so bad at storytelling, guys. I'm so sorry. So the main guy, the guy in the reel, had said, no, I don't want to do an interview. No, I don't want to do an interview. Then they had happened to come across each other at an event. And the main guy, who kept on saying, no, I don't want to do an interview, was like, you know what? I'll do an interview with you. You have 10 minutes right now. And the other guy was not prepared. He didn't have anything ready. He was like, this isn't going to work. You know, can I come back? Can we schedule a time? And the main guy was like, no, I just gave you my 10 minutes. You say you're not ready. That's on you. That's not my problem. I'm not doing an interview now. And then he was kind of just like shit talking this poor business owner. And it really upset me because, y'all, let's be reasonable. One, it's a good thing I don't remember who this guy is because I'm going to say something. You're not that important.
Yeah.
Okay. You're telling me that you can't schedule a time. You can only give him your 10 minutes right now at this very second. Also, it is completely reasonable for him to not be prepared because he doesn't have his nice setup. He doesn't have the questions that he was going to ask you written down. That's not fair. And I'm like heated about this again. I'm sorry, guys. In the comments, people are like, well, you have a phone. You have a microphone on your phone. You should have had the questions ready on your phone and just recorded him. Vivian and I pride ourselves in having nice lighting and having good quality microphone audio. Thank you. Audio. Well, we try to, every once in a while, guys, but we try our best. We try our very best to give you the best quality. Maybe he wants to give his audience the best quality. So no, he's not going to do a random interview for 10 minutes in some event.
Yeah, I don't understand people like that. And the hustle mentality is always interesting to me. I will say this. I think because I'm older, Chelsea, I let people be, listen, you want to spend your entire life hustling away and not prioritizing relationships and doing fun things and doing that. For some people, that's their jam. They love building businesses and working all the time. Fine. If it stresses you out, affects your health, and you're okay with it, who am I to tell you otherwise? Okay. Yeah. So my whole thing is like, I think what bothers me is like what you're explaining, which is more so of the privilege that some people think just because they built up an audience that they have to be rude or to be inconsiderate towards somebody else. If at the end of the day, if I was that guy, let's say I was the guy who wanted the interview and last minute he was like, I'll do it right now if you got 10 minutes. What I would say is, okay, well, I don't want to interview you, but instead just give me 10 minutes and let me ask you questions that I want answered.
Yeah.
And that way I'm getting some type of value from whoever that person is that obviously has some type of like, not clout, but information. Obviously he's somebody that he wanted on there for a specific reason on his podcast. Yeah. So I would just say like, I'm not going to do the interview because I don't have the equipment. I'm not prepared, but thank you. I will take up 10 minutes of your time. You freely have given me those 10 minutes of your time. I will do what I want with it, which is to just ask you some general business questions that I have or general questions about X, Y, and Z. But I think that's also where for me, and you and I are built the same way, Chelsea. If you push me on stuff, I don't like it. I don't like people telling me what to do. I don't like, we're both grown adults. Yep. I want to have conversations with people, and my expectation of people is that if I respect you, you respect me, you respect my time. Yeah. It's very similar. So that's where when you start pressing on me like that, like, no, it's got to be done right now. Okay, well, I'm going to say I don't want to do it. I don't care. No skin off my back. Like I'll book someone else to do the podcast. But thank you. 10 minutes. Great. Now I have questions that I do want you to answer that I'm curious about.
Exactly. And this is part of a bigger conversation that we're going to have, I think, on the main YouTube channel, the Seasoned Marketer, a little later on, which is how do you decide who to listen to for advice and how do you go about, because there's some real bad advice out there, y'all. So, but that's a different conversation we're going to have. My point for this was hustler mentality. It works for some people. If it doesn't work for you, that is fine. You don't have to do it. You don't always have to be on. Your brain needs a break. So when you feel yourself burning out, that's when you start to make mistakes, right? The quality of your work, the quality of your life, it goes down. So let's not let ourselves get burnt out. If your body is telling you you need a break, listen to it.
There's also a lot of studies out there that prove that in order to be creative, you need to rest. And so that's an important part of the creativity process. So if you guys are doing any type of creative work, then just keep that in mind. Integrate downtime into that process so that way you can continue to be creative in the way that you need to be. Yeah. And what I'm thinking of specifically is, let's say that you're doing like, I don't know, you're wanting to do videos or movies or stuff like that. If you're doing any type of writing, all of that, it's very important to include play in a lot of that too, because that does spark creativity as well. So the work-life balance, work-life side hustle balance, okay? That's yeah, it's not a 2-scaled, it's like
Yeah.
3-scaled
Yeah.
thing. But you do wanna give it adequate consideration because
Yeah.
you never want to be working all the time
Yeah.
and then have your relationships or just, your life in general suffering over
Yeah.
that. Like, I don't understand that part of it either because you need to the whole purpose of you creating a side hustle is, I think, because eventually you want to do that full time.
Mhm.
If the transition takes a little longer,
Yeah.
it just does, but don't let your personal life suffer because of a
Or it might be a creative outlet for you, which if you find yourself kind of creatively, that's not a word. If you find your creativity starting to suffer because of your small business, maybe step back and, give yourself time to be creative and create, not for the purpose of selling things, but just find that spark in you again. I have an example, and it's going to be a deep cut.
Ugh. Ugh.
Daria.
Yeah, I love
I
Daria.
love Daria. I don't know how many people know it.
It was a 90s sitcom?
I don't know if I'd call it a sitcom.
It was
It
a
was a show.
cartoon.
It was a cartoon show. Yeah, but not like it was like Beavis and Butthead, right? Like it was that kind of thing. How I ended up watching that, it's Our Father, because this was definitely not something that people my age ever watched. Okay.
It was more of my speed and my age.
Yeah, exactly. But it's about a girl, a high schooler, Daria, and she's very cynical and not really into people. I don't know how to explain it, but
she's drenched in sarcasm too.
Yes, perfect. Her best friend, Jane, is an artist. That's her thing. And in one of the episodes, she gets discovered by this guy who sells fakes. And he's like, you know what? Work for me. You'll make a bunch of money and we can sell fakes. And she was doing that. She was making a good amount of money, but she couldn't paint anymore. She couldn't paint the way that she wanted to, and she couldn't design and create art the way that she wanted to anymore because all she could think about was creating these fakes. And at the end, she ended up quitting, not doing that anymore. Even though the money was great, it burnt her out, right?
Yeah.
So if you find yourself in that position, I'm not saying quit your side hustle. I'm saying take a second and find that passion again and give yourself time to reinvigorate yourself.
Yeah, realigning is always super important. And you guys, it's different for everybody. Okay. The stuff that excites me is going to be different than the stuff that excites Chelsea. Trust me. Okay. Like that is just something we know. But, so we can't tell you exactly what that is, but we can say whatever that spark is, whatever allows you to feel if it's fishing for you. Some of you it may be going to the beach. For some of you, it may be going and having a great meal with friends, right? Others, it might be time with family. For some people, it's actually exercise. So if you have to incorporate exercise into your daily routine, your weekly routine, in order for you to to feel good and to allow you to get the work done and remain creative, then those are all things that you need to include. But do you love making crafts and working on your small business but struggle to get them in front of customers?
Do craft fairs, events, or pop-ups leave you feeling overwhelmed or frustrated?
Introducing Rock Your Fair, the course designed to help you succeed in the world of craft fairs, pop-ups, and events, created by 2 marketing professionals with over 15 years of experience. Rock Your Fair is perfect for anyone who's new to the game or just wants to step up their game.
Our step-by-step approach will guide you through everything you need to know, from choosing the right events, to setting up your booth, to marketing your products effectively.
And you know what? You'll also get access to us for personalized coaching and feedback so you can put your best foot forward.
Do not let craft fairs, pop-ups, and events hold you back. Sign up for Rock Your Fair today and start rocking your way to success.
For a limited time, get access to our free mini course. Simply head over to our website at www.theseasonedmarketer.com and click on workshops.
I also want to say, giving yourself a second and looking back as to why you started this, it's very important.
That is a very big deal because I can tell you as someone, and I've even had a little bit of like, not roadblock, but what do you call it? Like mental block lately, where sometimes I'm just like, okay, like I have to pause. Okay. And I'll give you a perfect example of what just happened to me last week. I have a new video camera. Okay. So I shot a video that literally, it was like an hour long. So whenever I condensed it, it was going to maybe be like 20, 30 minutes long or whatever after editing. But, I noticed like when I was clipping the video together, I was like, oh, that just doesn't look like it doesn't look the way I want. And I have made it a point on our main YouTube channel, The Seasoned Marketer. I need the videos to be a proper, good representation of the information that we're putting out there. And so I want to elevate them. I want them to look sharp. I want them to, to actually have good editing, all of that. So if I've made that decision and that's the next step, it's not just a matter of now creating videos and putting information out there. I've gotten used to that. Now it's like, let's elevate it, give it that little oomph that we need. Okay, I scrapped the whole thing. I was like, I can't put this out there. And so as much as it pained me, and I almost felt like crying because I was like, great, I just wasted time on my Saturday to do this. I knew it was the right decision. And so now I'm going to have to reshoot it, which is okay because I'm confident that this batch will be better and it will look good and I won't regret reshooting the whole thing. And the information is solid. And so it's never a matter of like whether the information's good. It's just now I'm like, okay, there's got to be a standard that I want out there. So y'all, it doesn't mean that like even at no point in time of a side hustle or a small business or an entrepreneurship are you ever going to get away from this like, hey, I know I got everything made. I know unless you have a big team around you that you are confident is, doing all this stuff for you and it's on like automate, you're always going to have these little glimpses. And even then, I just think the problems change, right? So it's like the bigger problems that you're having to deal with. So it's okay to have those little hurdles. Don't let it derail you and think like, oh my gosh, why am I even doing this? Like I could have sat there and been like, oh my gosh, why am I doing this? I'm spending my time but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to give myself 5 minutes to feel like a little sad sack of potatoes about it. And then I'm going to move on. I'm like, great. Now what's your game plan? Okay. When are you going to shoot it again? When are you going to clip it together, post it?
I love that. Guys, if you're feeling stressed out, if you're feeling like you don't know what you're doing, if you're feeling like, oh my God, doing a side hustle, being a small business owner is awful and I'm struggling right now, you can reach out to us. We're going to listen and we'll tell you, hey, you're going through this right now. Vivian went through that too. Here's how Vivian dealt with it. You don't have to deal with it like Vivian did, but here's some suggestions. Like we are here to help you guys. And if you need someone to listen to you, we'll listen to you.
I think a lot of the times too, Chelsea, and trust me, this is not ever, I've had these instances all the time too. I think sometimes when we don't get grow as quickly as we want, or maybe we're like, why is this not working out the way I thought it was? Like, it looks like it's easy for everybody else and it's so hard for me. We have a tendency to want to scrap stuff and start over. Okay. Cause that's and in some cases you should maybe. Okay. But in other cases, it may be more of a soft pivot. Or it may be, so I try really hard when I get in these moods of like, I'm like, like I just, I want this to be a little different. Instead of deconstructing and blowing the whole thing up, which is what I'm telling myself to do. I'm like, oh my gosh, just start from scratch. Our website, perfect example. We're in between setting it up differently. And you and I had talked about this 2 weeks ago. And so we have a game plan for now, how we want things to look on the homepage and all that. Okay, well, I have to sit down and I have to manually do that. There's that part of me that's like, oh my gosh, like I just want to scrap it, start with a new website. And the other day I caught myself looking at templates for like a different thing, not Bluehost, for something else. And I stopped and I was like,
Thank
Vivian. Yeah. I was like, Vivian, is that really going to resolve the problem you're trying to fix? No, you know what the solution is. You just have to do the work to do the thing. So instead of wasting time doing this, focus on this. And if I'm feeling overwhelmed with the overall project, because there are lots of elements to it, I'm going to create a list of all of the things that need to be done, bucket them into things that are alike, and then just approach it like that and say, you have 30 minutes to work on this. You have 30 minutes to work on that. Like, that's how you're going to eat the elephant. Like, you got to, kind of break it down into bite-sized stuff. But I caught myself before I was going to do something that was truly unnecessary, because there's no, fix what you have. You have something, some foundation, fix it, improve it. Don't just like blow it up. Now, sometimes blowing it up is great. When I do want to blow it up is going to be whenever you and I hire somebody to redo the website completely. Okay, I already know what that budget looks like. I know how much is needed. Okay, well, until I get to the point where I'm ready to pull the trigger on that, I can do this. Okay. Yeah. Without having to create more work.
I'm glad that you had that conversation with yourself, because if you had gone and like completely redone the website, I would have been like, what are you doing? We had a whole conversation about what needed to be done. You didn't have to blow it up. You already knew what you needed to do. Why did you blow it up?
Sometimes I think in your brain, it's always easier just from like, okay, let me just start all over. And sometimes that's fine, except what's going to end up happening is then sometimes you push things off so much instead of just doing the quick fix that you need now, or not quick, but like, the fix, you can do now. Yeah.
Which, okay, so another thing, find someone that you can talk to. It can be your partner. I know Ray says that she sometimes asks her husband, Ray, the design demon. We've had her on before. Go check out that conversation. It was really interesting. But she sometimes asks her husband, hey, what do you think of this design? Now, her point in that conversation was she asks him, and then she goes to Instagram because she has such a wonderful community on social media. She asks her followers on Instagram how they feel about it, because they are her target audience, her consumer. Her husband isn't necessarily that. But sometimes you just need to talk it out. I am that person to Vivian. Vivian is that person to me. It can be a significant other. Tim does not want to hear anything, that he's not interested, whatever. That's fine. If you don't have anyone, again, you can talk to us. That's fine. We will listen. We understand. But finding someone who will give you their opinion, who will listen to what you're saying. Sometimes you just need them to listen. Again, finding a person who will be that for you is very important.
And I think if you don't have any person in your life that can do that, what would be a good substitute or a good addition to that is find community. So I'm a part of Charleston Women in Business. It's a closed Facebook group for the Charleston area, women that are trying to run their business. It is a wonderful community because in there you see people asking questions, you see they're promoting their stuff, but it's also a place where if I was like, I just have this idea and I just don't know like what, I could easily just post it on there. But I think it also puts you in this like space where if you guys, let me just say this to you, if you guys are launching a side hustle or a small business, Your family and friends may not get that.
Yeah.
And it's okay. Not a lot of people have this bug in them where, like, it's gnawing at you and you just have to go build something on your own. A lot of people are like, "Why the hell would you do that? Like,
Yeah.
why would you spend your free time to do that when you have a job that is fine? It's paying you, it's stable, it's well." Not everybody has that in them where they feel adventurous and they feel like they have to go do that more. Some people value stability more than adventure, okay? So if you're that person like me where it's like I have a little bit of both in me, I've always wanted to be a small business owner or an entrepreneur, but there's and interestingly enough, I'll tell you, Chelsea, I don't know if I shared this with you before I started the Seasoned Marketer. I had this bug so bad that I sometimes thought what I wanted to do, and I had researched it quite a bit. I even pulled numbers to see how much money people were making doing this and that. I wanted to open like a online boutique of just game day clothing.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it was just going to be like, any of the like college teams,
Yeah.
getting their clothing on there. And that's when I started researching it, there's a lot like in order to use their trademark, their logos and stuff, you have to pay them X amount and all this. And so I was pretty deep into research into wanting to do stuff like that. But the thing is, I had something gnawing at me. I was just like, it felt like a creative outlet that I didn't know what to do with. And y'all, I'm not a musician. I'm not an artist. I'm not, any of that stuff. So that was the creative like mechanism I was using. But I just think there's some people are built with it and some people just don't want anything to do with it. And neither is good and neither is bad. That's just preference.
Yeah. I feel like this entire conversation was kind of like a pep talk.
Yeah, it was our little like keep going. And I'm just going to throw in there hopefully we'll have more on this. Chelsea and I were just having a very good conversation about building community. And I think the important thing to kind of, hit that part of it home, y'all. We hope that if you are, well, not we hope, if you are a small business owner, it is vitally important for you to tap into the resources that you have available for you. All right, which means finding these communities. We hope that for you, marketing wise, we are that community. Okay. We want to be those people for you where it's like, you guys are working on your side hustle, you guys are working a job and you have families. And so we want to be able to provide you the most recent and current information and to provide you tools where you don't have to go digging 5 pages deep into something on Google to find the answer, right, to this marketing question. And what we're hoping is we hope to be able to build that out further. So be sure that if you are wanting us to be that marketing resource for you to just help in that area of running your small business or your side hustle, you're following us on Instagram, be sure you follow us on, our YouTube channel, The Seasoned Marketer, and also, be sure that you're subscribed to this podcast.
Yeah. Y'all, don't give up. Keep going. Side hustles are hard, especially when you have a full-time job, but hopefully this gave you some starter points, some ideas, some tips, and gave you a little boost so you feel confident enough to keep going and go be the best SOB you can be.